The grand finale, of course. Today, in this workshop, you might hear some secrets. Therefore, it's really forbidden to make records. Just don't look at the camera behind. Who is a better person to share with us secrets of colorful tricks, how to tailor a perfect speech, a winning speech, than a winner of a district European district contest, and a web designer who is working with colors on a daily basis. Yes. We've heard him yesterday, and we can see him here. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me warmly welcome here on the stage, Antonio Meza.
Thank you. Before getting started with the workshop, we have something to do together. One of the things that happens when you win a district conference is that you start to get a lot of invitations and also requests to encourage people to participate in events. So we're going to record together right now a 30-second video where I'm going to send a message to the Toastmasters in Madrid. So you are going to help me to say Hola Madrid. Okay. So I want to hear you saying Hola Madrid. Okay. Hola Madrid. Okay. Again. 1, 2, 3. Hola Madrid. Yes, exactly. Good. Now, I need a volunteer camera iPad man or woman. Somebody to hold the iPad. Okay. I have my beautiful wife volunteering. Thank you. I promise this was not rehearsed. She didn't even know we were going to do this. Okay. And this is what we're going to do. We're all going to say Hola Madrid, and then I am going to say a message to them. I'm going to say something like, Me encanta Toastmasters porque es una gran familia internacional. You all understand, right?
You have to say it slowly, so you can.
Yeah, thank you. I have a coach. I have a coach here. So it's Hola Madrid, everybody. Slow. Then I say my message, and then everybody, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know how you express enthusiasm in Czech Republic.
In Finland.
Okay. Then do your best, even if it's just like.
Can we do 2 takes?
Yes. Can we
do 2 takes?
Yes, we can. So you tell me where to be.
Well, let's start here.
It's an advantage to have a photographer wife.
Yeah. It's good.
It's good?
Okay.
Recording? Okay, I'm going to count to 3 and then we go Hola Madrid. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Hola Madrid! Me encanta Toastmasters porque es una gran familia internacional. Yeah. Como esta. Another one?
Just a little bit? Yeah. Okay.
Ready?
2 clubs.
Okay. 2 different clubs. Okay. 1, 2, 3. ¡Hola! Me encanta Toastmasters porque es una gran familia internacional donde todos pueden aprender. Thank you. Now this will be played again and again in Facebook for the Toastmasters in Madrid. Thanks a lot for this, very meaningful. I'm very happy that you're here. Now, after the deep message from yesterday, now we get to do something more relaxed and fun together. Okay? So I hope that you are prepared not only to learn, but to have a little bit of fun together. Is that okay? Yeah. Good. Now, I've been in Toastmasters for about 4 years or so. I started competing quite early in Toastmasters, and because I was already competing, then I was attending a lot of workshops with many different people. Some of them have been already the world champions, and I've been putting a lot of, let's say, techniques or tips from here and there, not only from Toastmasters, but also from my early career on script writing, and a little bit of theater, a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. So I've been making my own goulash, if you wish. And I would like to share a little bit of that with you today. Now, in order to do that, I would like us to be all in the same page. So I thought it could be a good idea to share with you my contest speech from last year in Vegas. Not only I think I'm still very proud of that speech, no matter that it went long 7 seconds more, but if you don't think about that, it's still a speech that I can stand for. It's still a speech that I feel very proud about. And we will be speaking about this speech during the workshop. Maybe some of you have already seen it. Who has already seen the speech online? Okay, so just a few. Great. So I'm going to play it for you. You may have already now some questions about how to create an engaging speech, a winning speech, or just a great speech. If you already have some questions, please write them down. If not, maybe during the speech there's something that comes to you. Like, okay, so how do I grab the attention of people, or how do I say something? I don't know. How do I what? I'm very curious about what you want to know. And then from there, I have prepared some points of procedure about how this speech was crafted. And I would like to answer with that to your questions. Is that okay? Good. So then I'll start by playing the video. It's just 7 minutes long.
Antonio Meza, the mirror, Antonio Meza. First thing in the morning, you look at the mirror. What do you say? I used to say, "Hello, handsome." But lately, I found myself saying, "Ay, ay, ay." Every day I look more like my grandma. You may like what you see in the mirror, or you may not. But somehow you recognize that image as you. Mr. Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, how do you recognize yourself? What is your identity? This is important because the way you define yourself affects the way that you relate to the others. I used to think I had a very solid identity. I was a Mexican man in a quest to conquer the world. So I moved to France. Everything was going according to plan. Until last year, 3 events made me ask, who is this person I call myself? Hello? Have we met before? I call the first event, Meeting Your Ancestors. One day, as I was surfing the internet, I read an article that said, if your last name is in this list, then you are likely to be a descendant of one of the Jewish Sephardic families that were expelled from Spain back in the 15th century. And today, you could be a candidate to the Spanish nationality. Well, I opened the list, To my surprise, my father's family name, Meza, was in the list. Is there some Jewish blood mingled with my Mexican blood? Is that the reason why I love so much the fiddler on the roof? Is it okay from now on to put guacamole in my falafel? Call me crazy, but ever since reading that article, I started to feel much closer to my Jewish side. Then the second event happened, which I call Cellular Biology 101. I had a conversation with my friend Julien, who is a French biologist. He told me, Antonio, from the point of view of biology, the whole question about your identity doesn't make any sense. Your cells reproduce and die. And it takes to your body 7 years to entirely regenerate. So you could say that after 7 years, you are now a different person than you used to be 7 years before. I've been living in France for 11 years. And through all this time, the cells of my body have been regenerating using protein coming directly from croissant, soupe à l'oignon, and ratatouille. Does it mean that, biologically speaking, I am already French? Call me crazy, but ever since speaking with Julia, I started to feel much closer to my French side. And then the third event happened, which I call tying the knot. Because yes, last year I got married. And my beautiful wife is German. Well, her dad is Hungarian, so she's part German and part Hungarian. Call me crazy,
No image.
but ever since getting married, I start to feel much, much closer to my new Hungarian and German side.
There you go.
It's like a new family. Now imagine that one day we actually have kids. What am I supposed to tell them? Dear son, dear daughter, you are part Mexican, which means part Spanish and part Aztec and with Jewish ancestry. You are also part German and part Hungarian and born in France. I think that my kids are going to need at least 4 passports and a good therapist. It turned out that the one needing a good therapist was me. Because after all these events, I started to feel quite lost. What I thought it was a very solid identity started to be loose. On one hand, I was feeling much closer to a lot of people that before were just people. And on the other hand, I was feeling farther away from my own homeland and Mexican culture. Who can I call my people? Do I have to renounce who I am in order to embrace who I am becoming? How do you define your identity? A few weeks later, I attended a personal development seminar offered by my friend Robert from California. And during this seminar, Robert proposed this exercise. You look another person in the eyes and you say, I see you. I can see your strength. I can see your fragility. And I know that you are much more than that. When Robert proposed this exercise, I honestly thought that it was just California wishy-washy hippie stuff. But when my partner in the exercise said those words to me, call me crazy, but I felt much closer to myself. Finally, I didn't have to know who I am. I could just recognize myself in the eyes of the other. And those eyes became the mirror where I could see myself, my origins, and my potential. and I could embrace it all. I can be more, and that's okay. First thing in the morning, you look at the mirror. What do you say? I say that you are much more than the color of your skin, the borders of your country, or the genetic recipe of your blood. So tomorrow, when you look at yourself in the mirror, try saying, hello there, I see you. I can see your strength. I can see your fragility. And I know that you are much more than that.
Lights. Excellent. Well, okay. Despite the technical glitches, I think we got an overview of the speech. So now I am curious to know, what do you want to know?
I have a question. How did you choose the title? What is the pattern that you choose the title?
Okay, good. Yes,
Your feeling right after finishing the speech.
my feeling right after.
The role of the message in that speech for you. The role of the message for making good speech.
What's your technique to memorize the speech?
How much did the speech change from when you gave the initial one in the club contest?
How do you make your gestures so smooth?
Tell us actually, how did you write the speech?
The whole story. What about the few seconds you were missing?
Not missing, but
I found the topic very interesting. Did it make you want to write another speech to follow on?
the mirror too.
Antonio, the thing I like best about you is it's an English expression, I don't know if everyone knows, but you come across as so non-assuming.
Non-assuming.
Non-assuming is an English expression. It means you come across as a very natural, authentic guy. And with no big ego and not pushing in any way. It's this expression, non-assuming. And this for me is your biggest quality. It makes you a warm, and sympathetic and authentic person.
Thank you.
Is this something that comes from inside, naturally from all of your life? Or is it something you've tried to attain or achieve?
Got it. You had one question?
Yeah. How did you found and connect the idea or the purpose of or the message and that three things that happened to you? How did you found the connection?
How much humor is enough?
How much?
Humor.
Humor. How much humor?
Yeah.
What?
Because
What's the question?
when is enough?
How much is enough?
How do you prepare for body language, for the nonverbal?
Okay, body language. I already got that part. Yeah.
What would you recommend for us that we have not such interesting background as you have?
Okay, now. Ooh, I even have water. I think I would like to start with this. And if within the next 35 minutes we manage to answer all this, then we may start a second flip chart. It sounds okay? Yeah. Good, okay.
One more.
Okay, last one.
If you rehearse so much, doesn't it get boring or stale?
Less natural.
Okay, yeah, rehearse versus natural. Okay, let me see, where do I start? About the message. I believe that the message is the core of any speech. So what is the role of the message? The role of the message is my guideline for the whole speech, is my compass for the whole speech. That is something that I also had to learn. It's not something that I knew already, but when I started, or sometimes when you start creating speeches, you have stories you want to share, there's things that are interesting to you, you want to share all that. But in order to do that effectively, then it's important to be aware what is your core message. Because a speech can be a fantastic experience for you when you're delivering. Hopefully it can be a fantastic experience for the audience. But it is mainly a tool for communicating something effectively. A speech is mainly a tool for communicating a message effectively. So that's the whole purpose of doing a speech. Otherwise, you could be doing stand-up comedy, right? Or you could be doing something else, theater, or if you enjoy being on stage, you could be doing music. But if you decide to do a speech for inspirational purpose, for informational purpose, in the professional context, it's because you are communicating about something. And sometimes I have had questions, for example, well, my content is about numbers and statistics, so that's not as interesting, there's not such interesting stories there. What's my message there? Well, my answer to that is often that even numbers and statistics are information about people. So it's a way to have a perspective of what's happening for people, and people have stories. So you can always attach your information to one core message that you can believe in. And then, if much more important, if you actually believe passionately about that message. If you can stand for that message, then it's much better. Otherwise, it's not authentic. It doesn't really matter in the, let's say in the contest. It doesn't really matter what is your message. You can agree with me or not. But what is really important is that I can stand for that message. I have the feeling that sometimes people, in order to win a contest or in order to seduce the audience, they push it a little bit too hard. So they say, oh, I'm going to tell this story because I'm going to make people cry. You can do that, but if you're doing it only for the sake of moving the audience, but you don't believe really on what is in there, then it's not authentic. I believe more in authenticity than in trying to be over dramatic or over touching. And that has to do a little bit with the point about the background, because it is my honest belief that every single person has a very interesting background. You don't need to be multicultural. You don't need to speak many languages, have visited many countries, or have many different jobs, or love extreme sports, or you don't need to be an extraordinary person. What is important is that you bring an extraordinary optic to your experiences. So it's important to learn how to do that. It's important to do, well, what do I want to talk about? What is my core message? If my core message is about friendship, then what do I believe about friendship? And how is that reflected in experiences in my life? Maybe I have lost friends, or maybe some friends in my life have saved my life, really or metaphorically speaking. But then I research in my life, in my experience, or I may be inspired by the story of somebody else. Like yesterday I was telling you about Van Gogh. So that's not my story. However, it is my point of view about Van Gogh. I went to the museum. I was surprised by the contrast between his late work and his early work. So I'm telling you the story of Van Gogh, but I'm telling you why it's important for me. And in that sense, it's not my interesting or extraordinary background that matters. It's my point of view about something else. So it's a lot about, can you look at life with curiosity? And can you look at your experiences with the optic of your message, what you really want to communicate? So I think step number one is always, what is it that really touches me? What is it that I want to share? For example, preparing the keynote for yesterday, I had a conversation with Lucas, and he was telling me about the subject of colors. So I thought, well, the subject of colors is great because I'm an artist, I'm a cartoon artist, but it's too open. Colors can be anything. So what do I want to put into the idea of colors? And by thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and having conversations mostly with Suzanne, my wife, I came down to the idea of, well, colors, I believe in diversity, and the idea of many colors collaborating together to create something new. That's something that I don't have it yet in the words, I don't have exactly the words, but I know that's the direction. And as soon as I have the direction, then I start to collect my own stories. I start to collect the stories from Van Gogh or from other people, information. So it's like a part of it, and this has to do with the part of how do you write a speech. For me, there's always a big part of collecting. It's like an inspirational phase where I'm more a detective than a writer. I'm a detective inside of my own life, how the message is reflected in my own life. But also I'm reading, I'm thinking what books inspire me about this subject, what movies, what people that I know are examples of this message, or what people that I admire are examples of this message. Is there any quote that I know? Oh yes, of course, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote The Little Prince, and he said, well, it is important to see with your eyes what is essential is invisible to the eyes. That phrase came up into the speech 2 days ago. And it came because I was speaking about Dana Lamont, who is a person I really admire, and especially because he's a blind Toastmaster. And I was surprised about how with the power of his voice and his message, he was able to hold the room. And I had this idea, that's beautiful, that he said himself, I cannot make eye contact with you. But when he was, for example, in a speech you say, raise your hand if you have been such and such. And a lot of people raise your hand, you say, okay, a little or few. He cannot do that. So he was saying, well, if you have been in Toastmasters for more than 1 year, say yes. Yes. If you have been in Toastmasters for more than 3 years, say yes. Yes. And that way he could tell, okay, so about half of the room, or, well, I was impressed by that. So I really wanted to speak about him, and then the phrase of The Little Prince came in, and I thought it's a perfect match. But that's because I'm in this phase of detective. So I think I've spoken about the background a little bit and about the message. And we're starting to touch on the process of writing the speech. The title is very tricky, I think, always. In this case, for the contest speech, it was not as difficult because very early I had the idea that the most strong metaphor in the speech was the mirror. Because I start the speech with the idea of you look yourself in the mirror, what do you say? And I end the speech with the same question to you. So tomorrow when you look at yourself in the mirror, what are you going to say? So then I thought, well, the mirror sounds good. A lot of people in feedback sessions will say, well, what about a more interesting title? What about a more sexy title? What about this? What about that? And I honestly thought about changing the title many, many times. However, it just didn't make sense. It just didn't feel. Now, one thing that I recommend is that you don't disclose your message in your title. If you think the mirror works because it's a metaphor, it can make you think already, oh, maybe it's going to be about this or about that, but it's not telling you already what is it about. It would be very different if my speech was called How to Recognize Yourself in the Eyes of the Others. It's not the same thing, right? Yeah?
Is it called the mirror?
It is called the mirror. It is called the mirror. So I guess my only point here is do not disclose your main message in the title. If you can find a nice metaphor that you're using during the speech, maybe that's a good title. Sometimes a question can also be a good title for a speech if you want to, how do you say, entice the curiosity? Is that the right word? No. If you want to awaken the curiosity of people, maybe that's a good title. But always choose a title that you can stand for. And that goes for the experience that we were having yesterday during the masterclass. The three people that the three speakers that were brave enough to participate in the masterclass, including you, when I say they're really brave, I really mean it that they're really brave, because they put themselves in a situation of vulnerability, but with a willingness to learn. But chances are that they're going to get contradictory feedback. And that happened to Thomas and to myself during the events that we were doing last year. Every time a group more or less this size will give us feedback on our speech. And some people will say, it's great and your humor is fantastic. And then another one will say, yes, but dial down a little bit the jokes. Or, I love your hand gestures. Yes, but what about keeping your hands a little bit down? Every time you would get something like this. So in the end, what really matters is what resonates with you, what you can stand for, what you are really convinced. Now, from time to time, out of 20 comments, there will be one that go, oh, that can really grow my speech. It's more than the technique, more than if I am using a lot my hands, if I'm making good eye contact. All those things are techniques that you have to integrate. But from time to time, I would get to hear like one pearl of advice, and that's what I was hunting for. The rest, I was telling Jan yesterday, this is a tip that I got from Darren Lacroix, the 2001 world champion, and he told me, remember, Antonio, you are the CEO of your speech. That means the end decision is yours. So the end decision is yours for your title, for your message, and for the structure. Now, obviously, what is very important is that you communicate your message in an effective way. So also it's important that your structure is clear enough so that people can follow you. You can do whatever you want with your structure, but what is going to work best? That's the question to answer. Bit of water. Okay. How are we doing so far?
Good.
Not that convinced. We still have 20 minutes to go. So are you up for 20 minutes more? Okay, good. What was the feeling right after delivering that speech? You know the endorphin high? Well, it was like that. It was like when you jog or you do exercise, after a certain point you feel like you just had a shot of something very powerful. Well, it was like that. So in that moment, I went a little bit over time, but I didn't realize because I was having so much fun with the people. I don't know if you noticed in the audio, but people were laughing a lot during the speech. For me, it's still one of the best times that I have delivered a speech. So of course I was disappointed I couldn't participate more in the contest, but I thought, I started the contest with the mission of creating and delivering the best speech that I was capable of at that moment. And I think I did. So, and I can stand for that speech. So right after delivering the speech, I was floating. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, because we were having fun together, I delivered my message, and I was like walking on clouds afterwards, right? So, could I have done it better? Yes, always. And it's a learning experience. But in that moment, after those extra 7 seconds, I have my own probably 60 to 120 seconds of feeling like $1 million. And I was in Vegas, so, $1 million. So that's about the feeling, and I think that's really what you're looking for, is to have a connection with people that you can have fun with, but also deliver your message at the same time. Otherwise, well, if it's only about the information, there's tons of books, there's tons of videos in YouTube that you can watch. Why is it that we're here together having this connection? Well, we have a relationship now, and hopefully we are having a conversation that is going to nourish you and is going to nourish me as well. I think that's what I'm looking for.
You was nervous before?
Say what?
You were nervous?
Was I nervous before? Yes. I'm pretty nervous very much always before delivering a speech. Was I nervous yesterday? Yes. I don't think nervousness is something necessarily negative. It's only a problem when it becomes a problem. Now, what do I mean? It's only a problem when the nervousness is so much that you cannot do it, that you cannot step, that you are so afraid that you cannot step on stage and start your speech. Then it's a problem. But I am nervous before, and I use that as an energy, and I say, okay, I have this, and I feel my battery charged. So I'm nervous because I care about doing a good job. But once I step on stage, it's like, boom. Okay, that nervousness disappears, and now I'm speaking with you. So yes, I was. Yes, I was nervous. Technique to memorize. I like to go step by step, like memorizing minute by minute of the speech. So by little chunks. And then I actually memorize on the space. I use my apartment a lot, and I use a park that we have very close a lot. I walk the speech a lot, because for me it's very important. I get it in the muscle, not only in my mind but also in my body, so I know where I'm going, from which story to which story, where I am more or less when I'm delivering certain lines. It's not everything fixed, but by rehearsing with my body a little bit like an actor, it helps me to integrate it more. It's like my body knows where I'm going, so I don't have to worry about what are the next lines. Does it make sense a little bit? So that's something that really works for me, to use the space in order to memorize. Now, there's a difference, and I'm going to touch now into this idea of, if it's too rehearsed, does it become less natural? There is a difference between memorizing and integrating a speech. Memorizing, I feel like I am 6 years old and I'm memorizing the poem for Mother's Day. Dear Mom, I love you so much. Here is a rose for you. You see? That's memorizing. You're trying to retrieve word by word, but the problem is that you are trying to retrieve. You're thinking, okay, what is the next line? What is the next line? What is the next line? Integrating the speech is different. Integrating the speech for me is that I have rehearsed the speech so much that it becomes natural to deliver it, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think, what is the next line, where am I going? It flows. So it's so integrated that it just flows. That's one thing about integration. The second thing about integration is that when I'm telling stories, I'm not telling you about the story, I'm really remembering the story. So when I say, You know, we were in Mérida and I was speaking with my wife and I was asking her, where would you like to know? And she tells me, I want to go to the museum. I'm actually having some images about that experience in my head. Maybe some sounds of it. I try to put myself back there. Imagine that you're in a bar and you're telling a friend about something that happened. It's pretty much the same. You're reliving the moment. Guess what happened? This person came and told me such and such. So you get enthusiastic because you're reliving it. That's the effect that you want. And that's why you get to be natural again. I was telling somebody yesterday, so if you memorize, it's like awkward. Then you rehearse, you integrate, and it becomes natural again. And there's a part in between that can work or not. So for a 7-minute speech, like the contest speech, I do it like that. It's a script. I really integrate it. When I deliver, I allow myself to change a little bit, one word here, one word there, but it's pretty much the script. For a speech like yesterday, the keynote, I don't have it word by word, but I have the structure perfect. I have each story very well, very well done, and I allowed myself more improvisation because I'm more in interaction with you. It's a longer time also, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So there's more time, there's more opportunity to have real connection with the audience. And that's why I think that it doesn't stop to be natural. It comes back to be natural after you have integrated enough the speech. Make sense? Okay. How much did it change? About 30%. I don't think this one changed that much. However, this has to do with the process of writing the speech. I told you, first I look for what is very important so I get my message. Then there's this phase of detectiveness, right? I look for my stories, quotes, characters that inspire me. So I gather, and at the same time I'm speaking with other people, mainly with my wife, but also with some people in my club. So what do you think about this? What do you think about that? At a certain point I have enough that somehow intuitively makes sense, and I write the first draft. And then the club contest is the next day, usually. But if I can deliver it before I do it, if it's already the contest club, well, I take that as my chance to try it. And what happens then is a little bit the loop that Peter was explaining yesterday on the agility workshop. I deliver, I record, I get feedback, I send it to people, and I listen to the feedback. I rewrite it, I integrate again, I deliver again. It becomes a feedback loop. And what was very important last year is that I started, and then with Thomas, we went through those loops very systematically, contest after contest, presentation after presentation. It was very important since the beginning, because I've been competing for a few years. Then I had already some very good contacts with other European champions and with very good evaluators. So early in the process, already I was about to deliver the club contest speech. I was already in contact with them and say, hey, I'm preparing, I'm competing. Can you give me a hand later? Can I send you my video? So I got about 10 to 12 people that I really respect. They're really great speakers and evaluators from different countries. And I got them in my dream team. So after every time, I will send them my video. What do you think? What did improve? Tac. So in the end, I don't think that it changed that much, but the little changes were very meaningful. And every time somebody will come, oh, why don't you say this? This could be a bit more funny if you say it this way. So I tried, and I tried. If I agree with it, then I do it. If it feels like it's not me, I leave it away. Because the most important thing is that when you are on stage, you sound like yourself. So there are wonderful ideas from Olivia, from John Zimmer, from Darren LaCroix, from Bob Moll, who's been my coach since the very beginning. They all have wonderful ideas that will work very well for them. But not all of them work for me. So a very strong skill is the skill of filtering feedback. You need to get a lot of feedback and then practice how to filter it. What makes sense and what do I agree with? And then I think the speech evolves like that. It is because of that that the gestures are very smooth as well, because there was so much repetition. It's not that I think, okay, and here I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. I don't prepare it, but as I am rehearsing, I let my body language to express itself, and then I pay attention to it. And I say, oh, well, that's very cool when I say every morning you look at the mirror. That could work. So there are a few of them that I know, okay, I'm gonna do that. I didn't think about it before, but when I was rehearsing, I did it naturally. So it's part of me. So it's congruent. But then I think, okay, it can work, so I'm gonna try to do it again. Again, it's a process of rehearsing and rehearsing. And then if you do a little bit of kabuki, then it helps as well. No, that's a little bit of a joke. But you see, also something that is very important is that your body language is authentic. It's like if you're not somebody that is used to speak with your hands, then try to do it a little bit, but not too much, because you're not going to feel comfortable. Right? On the other hand, if you are like me or even a bit more Italian in the sense of woo, then do it. Do it. Because if people tell you, oh, you move your hands too much, you say, okay, this is my speech now. Hello. Then you're not going to be authentic anymore. So be authentic to who you are. Yes, push yourself a little bit outside the comfort zone, but not as much that you lose the sense of who you are. We're getting there. Is there a follow-up, a mirror too? I'm thinking about it. It's not exactly about the mirror, but yes, it turns out that the topics that you care about come back. So the next speech that I'm preparing is aligned with that. It's not exactly the same. It's not, I have a new mirror, no. But we could say that conceptually it's a follow-up of it. Yes.
The 7-second, I didn't hear the answer. And you...
You noticed? Okay.
So you gave the answer.
What was the question?
What the 7 seconds? How you...
I think I mentioned it. I think I mentioned that there were two things. One is I was honestly having a blast with the audience, and I lost myself in the audience. That's one thing. The other thing is that I delivered that speech about 30 times. And very consistently, I was doing 6 minutes 30, 6 minutes 35. So I went overconfident. I thought, there's no way I go over time. So I didn't pay as much attention to the timer than I should have. That's my big lesson.
And I think it's a lesson for everybody.
It's a lesson for everybody. They say the devil is in the details. Yes?
The laughs doubled. So you write a speech,
That's true.
you have a small audience, they're gonna laugh here, or they're gonna laugh there, or they're gonna laugh there. As the audience grows, somebody's gonna laugh at every joke you make. Every punchline. They laughed at every single punchline, even the lines we had never had laughs before.
It is very different to have an audience of 30 people than 300. Very different. As Susanne is saying, in an audience of 30 people, sometimes you get a few giggles here, and you say, oh, it's a bit funny, but it's not that much. And in 300, they go, ha, ha, ha. You go, whoa, I didn't think it was that funny. You see? Wait, I didn't think that was that funny. but it changes. Yeah, it changes.
The wedding in Vegas, so...
When I said, last year I got married, and you said they were even clapping. I didn't get that before.
Speak when the audience is...
So that's something, somebody was asking me how much humor is enough. I think all the humor that you want is okay, as long as you deliver your message, and as long as you're aware that the bigger the audience, the more they laugh. Also because laughter is contagious. So if I make you laugh here, I'm very happy with this speech because after 5 seconds, people are already laughing. So if I make you laugh since the beginning, then chances are that you're going to keep on laughing with me again and again.
You have to include that into the timing.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the point.
Allow for it in your timing.
So the more that you advance in the contest, the larger the audience, and the more that the laughter is going to take time. So you have to include that into your delivery time.
And it could be linked to the cultural things, like the American are more sensitive on some sentences and European...
I'm not sure it's necessarily cultural. Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Like the wedding, like a clapping in the wedding. And if you had it also...
But for that I have to say, in Vegas, in the room of my semifinal, don't think that they were all Americans. It was probably 75% international from many different countries, and about 20 to 25% of Americans. So I don't necessarily think that is a very cultural thing. I do believe that laughter is contagious, and if you're lucky enough to make people laugh, then you also have to know how to measure that.
And we had a lot of feedback in the feedback sessions about cultural differences, and in the end it didn't.
Okay, we have two more minutes and 2 more points. I'm not sure about the question about how to come across as non-assuming. I do, if I understand the question correctly, you were asking, is that something natural or is it something that you were trying to do?
I think, as far as I can see you, it's probably it's very natural. It's just how you are. It's not something you learned over years and years. This is just the way you are.
I think it's important to assume, to know yourself and to assume who you are. Now, if you think, well, I'm a little bit arrogant, well, assume that arrogance and speak from there. It doesn't stop you from being a good communicator and to be compassionate with your audience. But don't be afraid of it. Or if you say, well, I'm very energetic and sometimes I go angry when I speak about something that I'm passionate about, well, let yourself a moment to be angry, but not all the time. Right? Otherwise, you become a preacher in a very vertical side. So I think it's more about being authentic again. Yeah.
I've got the light bulb up here.
And did you get a sense of answer for this or not? How do you connect the main idea to the 3 stories? I think what I was trying to express is that once I get the main concept and I get into this detective phase, then I'm collecting. Then by the time that I get to write the speech, I'm actually asking how this story connects to this. Is it really relevant or not? Boom, yes, or not, okay, out. And the more that you get feedback, sometimes people tell you, well, but that little story, you know, it's funny, but what's the point? And if you get many reactions like that, then it's likely that you need to cut it out. So it's a process of editing, of recognizing how your stories or your quotes are connected to the main message. And sometimes they say, well, sometimes you have to kill your babies. It's a very strong phrase, I don't like it. But your darlings, is that you have to kill your darlings. Sometimes you have a story that is very dear to you. You have a story that you really love, and you say, well, but it's so beautiful. It has nothing to do with your speech. Well, then maybe, okay, you don't kill it, okay, but you keep it for a next opportunity.
Antonio, thank you very much for sharing with us so many secrets, and I believe that our speeches will be really colorful now. Yeah, so one big applause for Antonia, and I have 2 more organizational things.
So, applause first.
Applause first.
Applause first! Yeah.
Organizational points.